All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle a massive question today. How does a country actually get born? We'll be looking at three totally different nations, the USA, the UK, and Moldova. And you're about to see just how wildly different their paths to independence really were. So let's dive in.
I mean, have you ever really thought about it? It's such a cool question. We tend to look at a map and think of all these countries as, just there, like they've always been permanent fixtures. But every single one of them had a starting point, a moment they went from just being an idea, or maybe part of a bigger empire, to becoming their own independent nation.
So, when you think about a country being born, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably a big, dramatic war for independence, right? And yeah, that's for sure one way it can happen. But it is absolutely not the only way. As we're going to see, the journey to becoming a nation can follow some very different routes. A path of revolution, a path of union, or even a path of collapse.
Okay, so let's start with the one we all know, the classic example, revolution. And for that, we're looking at the story of the United States.
So it really all boils down to this huge gap between how things were and how people wanted them to be. On one side, you've got the American colonies, right? They're under British rule, paying all these high taxes to a government that's thousands of miles away, a government where they have absolutely no say. But on the other side, you've got this incredibly powerful dream of freedom, of being able to govern themselves. That tension right there, that's the spark that's about to light a revolutionary fire.
And you can see exactly how that spark just grew and grew. It didn't happen overnight. First, there was just general unrest in the colonies, protests, people pushing back. But that unrest kept building until it exploded into a full-blown revolutionary war. And after years of fighting, the colonies actually won. That led to the big moment, the defining moment in 1776, the Declaration of Independence. And just like that, a new nation was born, straight out of conflict.
But what if a country isn't born from breaking apart, but from coming together? That's a totally different idea, right? And that brings us to our second path, the path of union. Let's look at the story of the United Kingdom.
So, what are we even talking about when we say political union? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Imagine a bunch of different teams or players deciding to join forces to create one super team. That's kind of what this is. Instead of competing against each other, separate countries basically agree to unite, to form one government, because they figure they'll be way more powerful and stable that way. And the UK is the perfect case study for this. I mean, it wasn't some big bang event. It was a really slow burn, a process that took centuries to unfold. You had England, which was already a powerhouse, and it gradually, piece by piece, united with its neighbors. First Wales, then later Scotland, and eventually Northern Ireland. Every step of the way was driven by things like royal politics, smart alliances, and just shared interests. It was all about building a single, powerful state through agreements and treaties, not by fighting a war to break away.
All right, that brings us to our third and final path. And this one might be the most dramatic of all. It's the path of collapse. And for this, we need to look at the story of Moldova.
Yeah, think about this for a second. It's a really powerful concept. It's not like a colony fighting to break free, or a bunch of kingdoms deciding to team up. Sometimes, a new nation is literally born from the ashes of a giant falling empire. Its independence isn't just about its own story. It's tied directly to the end of someone else's.
And for Moldova, there's one year that changes everything, 1991. Just remember that number. That single year is the turning point, the end of one huge chapter and the sudden, incredibly dramatic start of a brand new one. Here's the chain of events. It's a really clear cause and effect. For decades, Moldova wasn't its own country. It was just one part of the enormous Soviet Union. But then 1991 happened, and that massive empire started to crack and crumble. And in that chaos, this little window of opportunity just flew open. Moldova saw its chance, and it took it, declaring itself a new independent nation.
So there you have it. Revolution, union, collapse. Three totally different journeys, right? But they all ended up in the exact same place. A new, independent country on the world map. And let's just break that down one more time. For the USA, the path was revolution, and the whole idea was about breaking away from somebody else's control. For the UK, the path was union, built on the idea of joining together to become stronger. And for Moldova, the path was collapse, seizing that one perfect moment to emerge from the ruins of a fallen empire. So what's the big takeaway here? If there's one thing to remember from all of this, it's this. There is no single playbook, no one-size-fits-all formula for how a nation gets started. History shows us time and time again that the path to independence is just as unique as the country walking it.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question for the future, doesn't it? When you look at these historical paths, revolution, union, collapse, what do you think is next? How will the countries of tomorrow be born? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.